Hello, everybody. Hey, this is Dan King, founder, president of Fist Bump Media, and I'm excited to have you guys join today and watch this webinar series we're running. Today's topic is on how to plan your digital marketing budget for 2019. It's a favorite thing of mine too, because not so much because of the money part of it and stuff too, but really because of the strategy part of it. Love kind of digging into strategy and helping kind of figure out which pieces are going to work best and stuff too. And really, ultimately, that's my goal for this session with you today, is to take a look at, let's crunch a few numbers. We'll look at some different types of options, and then I'm going to kind of go through some of the different pieces of a digital marketing strategy, so we can kind of better understand exactly where certain things may fit in, so that as we launch into this next year, and you try to work out for your business what kind of plan you need to have in place to grow and to really drive great growth, then you'll have all of the information you need to really kind of help make the smart decisions regarding your marketing plan and stuff. So that's the big goal today. And and when it comes to growth, I want to point out too, this is not something that we try to do and play with in theory. It's the same kind of thing that we practice ourselves, right? And this is a really important distinction too, because a marketing plan is a very individualized kind of thing for each business or brand and nonprofit or anything like that we encounter and work with. So the plan can look very different depending on who you are, where you're at, what kind of growth you want to see and stuff too. So I know I've run into some people who've even looking for Fist Bump Media and go, oh, why should I have you help me with search engine optimization, because you're not ranking #1 for certain terms that they're expecting? And really, it's because with the digital strategy that we have for Fist Bump Media growth, search engine optimization is not necessarily the biggest thing. It's something that we're concerned about and we focus on a little bit, but it's not the biggest thing that we really invest our time and efforts in and stuff to help us grow. As a result, we've been seeing consistent, sustained growth over the last several years, running at 60+% year over year. So we're not that kind of thing that, we're not going to try to build a plan that's going to say, oh, we're going to hack this and you're going to see 5,000% growth in the next 6 months or anything like that. That's not realistic and it's not sustainable. But developing a plan that's really going to help your organization grow steadily, consistently over time is one of the things that's really going to help kind of snowball and help you develop a great steady stream of clients. Before I dive into the content, just want to note that if you're watching this live, feel free to drop any comments. If you're on the Fist Bump Media page watching the webinar too, there should be a live comment feed directly below the screen. And then if you are watching on the YouTube channel, you probably see it on that side, the side of the screen, not below, but so anyway, feel free to drop any comments or questions you might have. Happy to try to pick those up throughout the session if you have those things. So the first thing I really want to try to dig into to help kind of frame some of this up and give you some perspective for what you should be thinking is really when we think about budgeting for marketing. One of the biggest things we need to do is kind of figure out, well, how much should I be budgeting, right? So there's a couple of factors that we look at when we suggest, how much should you budget for marketing in general, specifically for digital marketing. And this information, the data I'm about to show you too, it's really based on several studies and stuff too from chief marketing officers from a lot of different organizations and stuff. So these aren't numbers that necessarily they just made up. This is really kind of a trend for what a lot of other companies and organizations are doing and everything when it comes to budgeting. So I'm going to share my screen here real quick too, because I'll show you a couple of graphics as we move through some of the stuff. So here we go, how to plan your digital marketing budget for 2019. And the first graphic here is is related to new companies versus established companies. And what we define new companies as is companies that are in the range of about 1 to 5 years old. When you're a younger company like that and trying to get more established, you see the numbers there recommending 12 to 20% of gross revenue on marketing. It makes sense because you're trying to establish, you're trying to break in, you're competing with more established companies, right? So getting found and getting your name out there more is a little bit more of an uphill climb, right? So obviously it's going to focus on developing a little bit more of a strategy and investing a little bit more in it. But the growth that you should see when you invest at that level and stuff too should be pretty substantial, right? In comparison, companies that are over 5 years old, a little bit more established, been around for a longer time. This is even including companies that are 10, 20, 30, 40 years old, right? A typical marketing budgets are range kind of in the 6 to 12% on your gross revenue. So total revenue for the company and stuff ranges 6 to 12% spent on a marketing budget. I'm going to break this down real quick and to give you a couple of examples just so you can kind of see this. We can kind of frame this up. So first example, newer company, say about 3 years old, probably solopreneur kind of run, making about $150,000 a year gross revenue. If you want to invest in, your marketing strategy and continue to grow and see growth over time, you're looking in that as a newer, younger company, being 3 years old, looking at targeting the 12 to 20% of your gross revenue, right? So if you're bringing in about $150,000 a year, 12% number comes out to about $18,000 a year. Or if you break that down on a monthly basis, say about $1,500 a month for total marketing budget, right? Or on the high end, if you want to get much more aggressive, you're looking at spending maybe about $30,000 a year, about $2,500 a month. Now, typically when we look at the budgets and stuff too, one of the things we see in a lot of the trends is that digital continues to increase as a percentage of the total marketing budget. For the last several years now, a lot of the data that I've been seeing and researching and stuff too is indicating that these days we're kind of hitting a threshold of typically 50% or maybe even a little bit more stuff is going towards, of total marketing budgets is going towards digital. And digital meaning things like, your website and search engine optimization and social media, email marketing, things like that. So if we take those total budget figures and we say the low end for digital marketing, if you're running from anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500 per month in this case, for total marketing, you're looking at about, hit that 50% mark, anywhere from $750 to $1,250 per month spend on digital marketing. And I can tell you that if this is kind of the classification that your business is in, there's a lot we can do from a digital marketing perspective in that kind of $750 to $1,250 range. And it really ultimately it's going to get down to how aggressive you want to get. And if you want to spend more than 50% of your total marketing budget on online because you think that's where you're going to reach more of your customers and stuff, then those are all numbers. These are just kind of benchmarks and stuff that I'm sharing with you. So these can go up, down, or whatever. But the biggest thing is going to really depend on how aggressive you want to be. But I can tell you within that range, there's some substantial search engine optimization work that we can get done to really drive more traffic from the search engines as people are looking for the kind of things that you do, on your site. So capture them and get them onto your site. Another example I want to give you too here is the more established company, right? Say 10 plus years old, say annual gross revenue is running $2.5 million a year. In this example, because it's the more established company, you're looking at the smaller percentages, anywhere from 6 to 12% of your total gross revenue. So the low end total marketing budget would be about $150,000 a year, or $12,500 a month. or high end, probably in the $300,000 a year or $25,000 a month. So if we break that down then and look at the range, the low to high, running the kind of 50% of that estimate of the total marketing budget going towards digital, you're looking at spending around $6,250, a little over $6,000 a month, up to $12,500 a month. And then for an established company, again, what we can do from a search engine optimization perspective, things like pay-per-click type, very targeted advertising on social and on Google search. Those are kinds of things from a digital perspective we can really do at a higher level. You're also talking budget range there too, where you can invest pretty substantially in your website. And I'll talk in more detail about that in a moment, where it's not just a, hey, I built a website, it's good for the next 3, 4, 5 years or something like that until it's old and then we have to redesign it again. It's good to think about ongoing development and what we're doing to enhance the experience and how we can use it as a business to help market our products and services and to also just serve people. So it's a good range to really be expanding and thinking about a lot of bigger functions along those lines. So with that, then the next thing, let's see. I'll get back to sharing here. Stop sharing, see if we can get me back. Boom. All right. So that kind of gives you an idea of total marketing budget, right? So the next thing I want to try to dive into here a little bit is how you kind of break that down, right? So regardless of whether you're a new company, established company, and what kind of budget range you want to be in, how aggressive or conservative you want to be with your marketing spend and stuff. You can crunch those numbers and kind of figure out your ranges and stuff, right? So the next thing I want to kind of dive into is then how do you manage that budget, that spend from for your digital marketing with some of the different options that are available for you, because that's the other side of it too. Is then once you know how much you're going to be able to spend or you want to spend on your digital marketing strategy for the next year, where do you spend that money, right? What's going to drive you the biggest payoff and stuff. And one of the biggest factors that I'll say that impacts how you make that decision should really be based off of analytics, off of data. When we take on new clients, for example, we'll sit down and we'll do a very extensive study into the analytics and stuff. So for example, if we're evaluating search engine optimization, and this is one of the first areas, so this is a good opportunity to kind of talk about this piece for a second. But as we're evaluating search engine optimization, we want to do a deep dive competitive analysis. So we want to look at where your competitors are ranking, what kind of terms are they ranking for, what kind of terms are you already ranking for, what terms are you not ranking for that you should be, where some of the low-hanging fruit is, where we can develop some good early traction. That there's a lot of factors that kind of go into figuring out exactly where you should be and what you should be doing, right? But we'll talk about some of these as we talk about some of the different areas here in just a second. But that first one being search. As we look at search and competing on the search engines, the big thing, there's kind of two areas here where you can spend your money. The search is all really ultimately about driving traffic to the website, which is really the first part of kind of the big equation for how do I make my digital strategy provide a return on my investment and it's going to make me money, right? So part of that is driving traffic, but driving traffic isn't the only thing. We'll talk about that more in just a second. But driving traffic is huge, right? If you get zero traffic, then obviously 0 times anything for your revenues is going to be 0. So the more traffic we can drive, the better. right? So understanding search is a tool to help you drive traffic is going to be pretty critically important, right? And there's two ways within search that you can manage this, right? One is the organic search, right? And the organic search is all about just the natural rankings where you show up on the search engines, right? Which is different than the sponsored ads that you'll see at the top of any search engine results page and stuff, right? And that stuff is the pay-per-click, right? So you pay money to show up there, and you pay every time somebody clicks on your ad. And the biggest thing with search is really it's all about what's going to drive me the most clicks. Okay, from what we've seen over time, typically the organic search and the amount of money that you would invest in trying to improve your rankings, with organic search, is you spend a lot less for a lot greater return with organic search than you do with pay-per-click. Okay, so pay-per-click is typically going to be a little bit more expensive. But the great thing about pay-per-click is you can very, very laser target exactly where you want to be. What kind of search terms do you want to show up for? Are there certain geographic areas that you want to show up for, and certain geographic areas that you don't want to show up for? So you can get pretty granular with your pay-per-click strategy, and show up on searches. But the bottom line in the end is going to be, are people going to click on it when I show up on that page? Okay, so let me screen share again real quick too. I'll show a couple charts that I've got that will help kind of show you some of the data that we look at. Now, this first chart has to do with, and I'm not going to dig super deep into the whole branded versus unbranded. The charts there are pretty similar and stuff, so you kind of get the idea here. Show the number of the click-through rate on search results pages based on the position of where a page is ranking. Okay, so you see that on a search results page, the stuff showing up in position number 1 is running around that 30% mark. So for any given search, somebody does a search for widgets in Tampa, Florida. Whoever's number 1 is typically going to get about 30% of the clicks for those searches. And this is important too, because we can even figure out, and we see the data on the other side of the tools and everything too, of how many people are actually searching for that term. If there's 1,000 people a month searching for that term, and you're capturing 30% of those clicks, you're getting 300 people clicking through to your website every month. In comparison, look at the drop that goes down to number 2 ranking, right? Number 2 ranking is right on around that 15% mark, or right about 14% or so. So now, out of the same 1,000 people searching for that, whoever's in the number 2 spot is getting about 150 of those clicks. Okay, still really good. Not quite as good as that number 1 ranking. That's why people love that number 1 ranking. Okay, but yeah, so you're talking about 15% there too. And then you see the number 3 spot is getting about 10% of the clicks. So if you think about that, right, between positions 1, 2, and 3, you're running about 30, 40, 50, 55%. 55% of the clicks for any given search are going to the sites that are landing in the top 3 positions. And that's really what we try to focus on is, can we get you into that top 3? Because the jostling around between positions 1, 2, and 3 can happen pretty easily and everything too. But the target, if we can get you that top 3, and at least get you, if there's 1,000 searches a month happening for that, if we can get you 100 of those click through to your website, then that's a win, right? But if we can get you anywhere between 300 to 300 clicks per month, if there's 1,000 searches, then that's kind of what we want to focus on, right? And then you see then after that, it starts continuing to drop off pretty considerably, where even number 4 is only getting around 5-6%. Position number 5 is getting about 4% or so too. By the time you get down to numbers 9 and 10, which is on the first page, mind you, right? Even in positions 9 and 10, you're looking at about 2% a click-through rate. So if you have 1,000 searches, you're talking about 20 people clicking through to your website if you're showing up in positions 9 and 10. So that's a pretty substantial difference, right? Being on page 1 can be a great thing, but there's a big difference between 20 people and even position number 3 where you're getting 100 people, right? You're talking about 5 times the traffic by moving up a few spots, or a bunch of times, if you're getting 300, right? Very, very large difference. So it's all about position, right? And then the next thing I want to show you here too is that when you think about position, people tend to get pretty wise to the whole sponsored paid ads versus natural organic rankings thing. And that there have been a lot of different studies on this and everything too, but I want to point this one out too because it's just this one I think is a little bit higher than some of the others, but it really shows I think how wise people are getting to the trends with what's going on with paid search versus natural search. That really when it comes to click-through distribution, this study from a company called Smart Insights is reporting that 94% of people doing searches are clicking on the natural organic search results, and only 6% are clicking on those ads. And like I said, that is a substantial factor there. So really, like I said, it's all about your position, right? And how you're getting up there, right? And that's where I point out to you that organic is typically going to end up getting more clicks than the ads, even though the ads appear above the organic results. Now, the other thing I want to kind of highlight and show you when it comes to the search stuff is that Google's doing all kinds of stuff to help and kind of enhance the experience, right? So when I do a search for a Florida fence company, you see up top is an ad. That's the first thing that you see up there. And what the data is showing us is that ad up top, marked ad and everything, is not going to get as many click-throughs as even the stuff well below it here. As we look at the layout of the page, this section here too is what we call the map pack, or some people call it a stack pack, but the map pack showing search results in there too. And this Florida fence, I mean, this is one of our clients. So you can see they're showing up first for the search in the map pack. So that's really great, really strong. But there are a lot of factors that determine that too. But love this. Seeing 49 reviews there, strong review rating and stuff. Doesn't have to be a 5.0, but you see a strong review rating. But as we scroll down to this, these are the organic results. So even below all the stuff, right? Below the ads, below the map pack, this down here, all the way down here, is what's called position number 1, right? And you see these guys too on this page organically are ranking number 2 organically on the page, organic search results. So they should be getting some pretty good click-throughs and stuff based on that. But as you could probably guess, if I'm looking for a local company to do something, they're showing up number 1 in the map pack. So this space is even a little bit more coveted than even showing up in the organic rankings down here too, because people will tend to, these will have pretty high click-through rates and stuff as well too. So that's a big deal, and in doing that, there's definitely some strategy to showing up in organic search results, but there's additional strategy that helps kind of get you into doing local search engine results and showing up in these map pack places and stuff too. So that's the goal. I mean, ultimately, if we can get you showing up here and in here, that's going to be a big win. This kind of search term should drive pretty substantial traffic to that company's websites. So it's all about position and where you're showing up, and this is where, as I mentioned before too, it's not just about let me get up here. If this Florida fence were showing up here as well too, we could capture some of that too. But why pay for those expensive kind of click-through rates and stuff too if you're showing up number 1 here, number 2 right here? the places where people are going to be much more likely to actually click. So that's kind of the goal there, right? Is to focus the efforts on more likely the organic, because that's going to provide you the best rate of return over pay-per-click stuff. But with that said, pay-per-click can enhance an organic campaign and get you some additional results and stuff too, especially if you want to try to kind of target in some special deals and offers and things like that too, especially geographically and stuff. The next one I'll talk about, that's search. The next one I'll talk about is social media, right? And one of the big things with social media is a lot of people look at social media as this is a sales tool, right? If it's in my marketing kind of deal and stuff, this is a sales tool. And I would really argue that social media is not a sales tool. It's a relationship tool. That's why it's called social media. It's about connecting and having conversations in developing that way, right? And I love this example. I heard this just recently on a podcast or audiobook or something like that. But I love this example of when you meet somebody, a boy meets girl, right? And walks up to her and is like, "Will you marry me?" Right? Well, obviously, that might get met with like a slap in the face and you're just weird or whatever stuff, but the answer is probably going to be no, right? But essentially, that's what people do on social media quite a bit, especially businesses and brands and stuff too, is they kind of lead out with the, "Will you marry me?" Or, "Here's my product, will you buy it?" And it's you're not that far into the relationship with that client yet. There's a few phases that people go through. The first phase is going to be more about awareness, right? "Hey, my name's Dan. Nice to meet you." Then there's going to be a phase where you're building a comfort level and familiarity and trust with that person too, right? And this is something too that typically built a little bit more over time. And a lot of times you can go through these phases pretty quickly, right? But built a little bit more over time and stuff, by showing it's like, "Hey, I'm a trustworthy person. You might want to hang out with me, and we can talk and we can have some fun, whatever, I'm going to show you how I can make your life better." Right. And then once you've earned that trust, right, once you've worked through that second phase and everything too, then you start getting to the point where like, "Hey, will you marry me?" And that's where you're more likely to get that yes answer. Obviously it may be pretty easy to relate that to social media stuff too, but social media is going to be one of those things too, where it's really going to help you more with that awareness phase in that trust building phase. So the strategy there is not so much come out with your post of like, "Hey, buy all the stuff, buy all the things. I've got all the answers for you." You may have all the answers for them, but build that trust first. Use it as a tool to create awareness. Use it as a tool to build trust. So we focus on things like social media, the types of content that typically get the most engagement and get the most shares to help spread your brand name around and everything too are the humor and the educational stuff, right? When people are on social media themselves as people, two of the biggest drivers psychologically that they kind of go through is, number one, I want to be seen by my friends as being funny, and I want to be seen by my friends as being smart, right? So if you could provide tools and resources and stuff and have some fun and have some humor and stuff like that on your Facebook page, provide great educational tips and resources and stuff like that too on your page that people can then share with their friends so that they appear smart because they shared something that's really awesome and helpful, then that benefits you, because not only does it help develop your relationship with that person, but it exposes you to additional potential customers and stuff too, where again, you're that resource that can help them do that. So tracking kind of your ROI and your return on social media is a little bit trickier because it's not the direct, "Hey, buy all the things," right? But you're developing that relationship and stuff too, and becoming the go-to person for where they want to go. So there's a lot of things you can do from a budget perspective as far as that's concerned. Depending on the phase that you're in, right? If you're that newer company and really trying to get discovered, it may make more sense to invest a little bit more in things like search. But as you continue to grow, maybe you'll get a little bit more established and free up a little bit more digital marketing space in your budget and stuff too. Really focus on the tool of using social media to help develop that social relationship kind of building type approach and aspect and stuff too. There's things you can do from a social media perspective. Depending on who you're doing, you can do things yourself. We can help provide you some training and some guidance for what you do. Or if you were to hire somebody to, you can typically get, some help starting at a couple $100 a month or so. But as you kind of build, develop that strategy and stuff too, that can go up, pretty substantially and stuff too, especially when you start to maybe build in advertising budget into what you do on social media. That's one of the great things about social media as well too, from an advertising perspective. I think about things like that work out really great in social media is this retargeting stuff. It's that idea that, hey, I was searching on Amazon for a pair of shoes. I looked at it, played around with it too, but then when I go into Facebook later on, what do I see? All of a sudden, I see that same pair of shoes that I was shopping for showing up in a little ad on my Facebook, So that's the kind of thing too that we can kind of build into strategy and stuff too to help you really focus in and target those people who are already showing some interest in your product. Maybe they visited your website because they came through search, and then now maybe you're showing and building up a special offer, some kind of lead capture kind of tool or something like that, saying, hey, if you're looking for a fence, then let's talk about this. Here's a resource that you might find helpful, and use that as a tool to kind of capture that lead, so that you can continue to market and sell to that person. So there's some really cool stuff you can do for social media. But the budget can really vary just depending on how complex you want to go and how much you want to invest in that. Next thing is web design. Right, I'm going to screen share again here real quick too, because I want to show you another example. But web design, this is the one thing too. When we talk about search and even with social media, we're really talking about that first part of that equation and driving traffic to your website, right? And driving traffic is really important, right? But at the same time, then if you're driving, 5,000 people a month to your website, those 5,000 people are meaningless if you're not converting them into a contact or a lead, somebody that you can actually sell to. So one of the biggest things then too is when you think about from a web design perspective is how well does your web design actually capture those people and turn them into some kind of lead or contact, right? So a lot of times the reason people's websites fail at doing this is because you just don't ask, right? So when we focus on web design stuff too, we focus a lot on not just the things that you can do, and kind of sharing the type of products and stuff and services you may have to offer, but more importantly, the call to action. Okay, that call to action is the piece that is going to connect them and convert them into a contact or lead for your business. This is another one of our clients, Sunshine Roofing, and we do a great job too. We really focus a lot on the who we are, how we can help people and stuff, products and services that are available and stuff too. But we definitely see strong call to action, and we try to place these all around, the website stuff too, for, hey, get in touch. We're happy to talk with you, and just, help you figure out your needs and be there for you, help you figure out how you can make your roof last longer, right? But the calls to action are critically important. If you're not doing this kind of thing on your website, you're missing a great deal of opportunity. Don't just rely on your website to provide a little bit of information, maybe have a phone number on there somewhere or something like that too. Call them to action. Say, hey, connect with us. We can help you, right? So it's really, really important from a web design perspective. Also, from a web design perspective, let me get back to the screen here. Make sure you guys can see me. Also, from a web design perspective too, I think it's really important to not just say, okay, hey, I just spent 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, whatever dollars, something like that on a really nice company website stuff, and then it's good. I just invested a bunch of money on it too. I'm going to leave it alone for the next 3, 4, 5 years or something like that too, until that website is then really considered old and I need to invest a whole bunch of money again. We like to think about the design process as something that's ongoing and alive, right? And we call that the growth-driven design, right? So we'll typically start with a simpler website. The hey, what do you really need right now to make sure your brand is out there, successful? People can learn about you as a company, learn about your products and services and stuff too. But we like to try to evaluate that on a regular basis, right? So we may even get away, if we're trying to do a website design project, we may even get away with doing a little bit smaller website to start with than the kind of brainstorming and lay it all out there. Let's do all the things with the website. Right, maybe focus a little bit simpler at first to make sure we get the basic product knowledge and information out there too. But then we rely on the analytics to continue to drive that stuff. And we say, hey, we would really like to drive more growth. And stakeholders within the company say, we would like to drive more growth with this product or with this type of service or this kind of feature that we have available that really helps us kind of funnel the types of clients that we want stuff, right? And then we use the data and stuff that the traffic on the website is already getting to help kind of guide a lot of those decisions, so that, say, about every quarter or so, maybe we can go back and let's reevaluate. Let's create a wish list, and hey, here's a few things too. Once the website is launched, here's a few things that we can focus on this quarter that will continue to help drive even more growth, right? And then implement those things. Track and measure, right? And then use that data to continue to say, next quarter, here's our wish list, here's the things that we're seeing from an analytics perspective, and continue to develop stuff over time. When we see that kind of stuff too, the growth in the revenue and the conversions and things like that too, that a website will typically result in, grows at a much higher rate than spending $5,000 on one big website and then leave it alone for 5 years, right? So think about that, because there's ways you can plan on just incremental growth and improvement on the website based on analytics and data, what it's showing you, where your biggest opportunities are going to be, and drive really substantial revenue, depending on how you do that. From a budget perspective, that can typically get as simple or aggressive as you want to. Again, really depends on your goals. If you want to drive big, heavy growth, hit a plan over the next year or two that maybe there's a substantial part of that digital marketing budget that goes towards, incremental improvements quarter over quarter, stuff like that too, for just for the website, and see how we can track and measure and improve things like conversion rates and whatnot. So that's a big thing there. But really focus on conversions. Next thing I want to share with you guys too, and this is a big one for me, right, is the content marketing piece. Content marketing is really, for a business, is kind of the fancy term for what we call like the blog, right? It's the business blogging, okay? And this is a really important piece, because I think there are a few things that really drive growth with the entire digital strategy, like content marketing. Okay, and the reason for that is because it impacts a couple of things. It impacts the website and search engine value, right? Because as we're writing new blog posts on a regular basis, those blog posts become entry points and sources of keyword content and stuff like that too, that you may not already have on your website to capture new search and stuff, new search traffic coming in. But it also helps too from a social media perspective. And if we're looking at a whole big strategy covering what are we doing from a search engine perspective, what are we doing from a social media perspective, content marketing is really kind of the center of all that. I mean, content is king, right? And So one of the biggest things that feeds what we do from a social media perspective is the blogs that we create, right? We talked about with social media is providing helpful, resourceful information and stuff like that too, to help people feel like, oh, this is great information that helps me, but I can even share this with my friends because it makes me look smart, right? So from a social media perspective, it really feeds that entire strategy and stuff. So I focus a lot on how do we create what we refer to as evergreen content, right? I don't want to create a piece of content that is going to be valuable today, but then 30, 60 days from now, we completely forget all about it, right? I want to provide, develop content that's good and valuable today for these reasons and stuff. But it's also something that we can reuse over time again. So let me screen share again real quick because I want to show you one of the things that this impacts. And this is another example too from our friends over at Sunshine Roofing. I noticed a huge spike in traffic for the website at one point for the term "what to expect during roof replacement." When I saw that spike in traffic and I saw the terms that it was for, what to expect during roof replacement, I knew instantly what it was. And it was about a blog post that we had produced called "What to Expect During Roof Repair and Replacement." So we used the blog to really target what we call these long tail keywords and stuff. And when we look at the search layout, right, you can see organically that one is sitting at number 4 right now for that search term. But more importantly, above the ads and stuff too, we've got this little block right here. Okay. And this is Google's doing a lot of these days too, where basically when people ask questions, in the search results, they're trying to find what's the best answer for that question. Okay. And what they've done is because we've written a blog post on this and done it well, they picked Sunshine Roofing's response to this as the best answer for that. So this is when people ask that question to Google, what should I expect during a roof replacement? It's Sunshine Roofing's answer that comes up. Okay, and this is really important too because this is not just for a search results page, but is the voice activated devices, the Alexas and the Google home devices and stuff that get to become more prominent in people's homes. On a Google Home device, if you ask, hey Google, what should I expect during roof replacement? This is the answer that Google's going to give you. It's going to be Sunshine Roofing's voice that comes through, right? So this is one of the things from a search perspective that writing blog posts, doing content marketing really helps you hit, right? This is not content that we would just normally have just on a regular page on a website. If we did, it would probably kind of get buried as kind of a sub note for it. But we created a piece of content that we put out there, and it was a resource primarily for existing clients and stuff. And I'll talk about email marketing in a second, but this is one of the things we can kind of build into our email marketing plan. But this is really impacting search results, our search engine optimization efforts. But this is also a piece that we can share on social media on a regular basis and stuff too. So, and I think using Sunshine Roofing is an example again too. We've also created some content there, for how to prepare for a hurricane, right? It's a roofing company in Florida, right? So hurricane heavy storms come by all the time. And that's one of the big concerns, right? And the post will tell you things like, give you some tips that may not even have to do with your roof, right? But because they're trying to be a helpful resource, we'll tell you things like, hey, if something does happen to your house during a hurricane, your insurance company is going to want to see pictures. So go through your house, take pictures of everything before a storm comes. Make sure you have your papers and everything in place and secure, all that stuff, right? So we provide tips that don't even have anything to do with the roof, because we want to be the resource for people. And you know what? Hurricane season comes around every year. So guess what we're doing on social media is we're sharing that piece of evergreen content, right? That content that stays valuable, all the time, not just that first time we wrote it, and, we can reshare that over time again in a lot of different ways and stuff too, on social media and stuff like that too, so that it can really help empower our social media strategy. So content marketing is key. You see from a search perspective, and from a social media perspective, it really drives a lot of the strategy in both of those areas. From a budgeting perspective, again, part of this will depend on really how aggressive you want to be. For small businesses and stuff too, typically I like to at minimum do maybe 2 new blog posts per month. And the way we like to try to do those stuff too, something like that can run around about $250 or so total for like those 2 new blog posts. But really, I mean, if you want to do this well, you should be thinking maybe about 4 blog posts a month or so, about 1 a week, to really help continue to just feed that machine, feed the search engines with all the words and stuff that you want to try to be able to target, feed social media with all kinds of great helpful resources, and just build a library of content that's going to serve you well for years to come, right? So yeah, content marketing, again, you can go as aggressive or simple as you want with that, but yeah, it should definitely be a big part of your strategy. It's just for the simple reason, it feeds so much other stuff. And then last thing to kind of talk about email marketing, right? A lot of people look at email as like, oh, that's so 90s or whatever. Social media is out now, and let's talk social media stuff. But really, from a return on investment perspective, nothing in the digital marketing space returns as good an investment as email does. And that's really specifically because it's simple one-on-one communication, right? So when we think about conversions on the website, one of the big things there is, can we capture an email address somehow? If we can get in the email address, I can get them in my system, and we can even build automated marketing campaigns, right? That will send them maybe a series of emails, to introduce them, build that initial awareness, build that trust piece, right? So that maybe we can get to a point where we've developed enough of a relationship where, will you marry me? But yeah, marketing automation and stuff can be done, right? The key is, how do I capture those email addresses and stuff too? But once I have those leads, how can I send them the content that they need? And this is the kind of thing too, where it's, I don't want to say it's just a set it and forget it kind of thing, because it's not, because I think with all of this stuff, there's still a constant looking at, how do I evaluate how it's performing? Based on that, how do I make improvements and stuff? I don't like to benchmark, what like we're doing as FistBump Media or what we're doing with any of our clients against other companies and stuff too. Like to benchmark against yourself. If you're getting a certain click-through rate on your emails, open rate stuff too, how can I beat that, right? And that's the big thing. So so it's not necessarily just a set it, forget it kind of thing too, but in a sense, it is a little bit, right? And that's one of the things with marketing automation, through email, is that you create that stuff, build the systems out there and stuff too. And yes, we'll want to watch and try to make improvements where we can, but really you'll have a series of emails that you can send out to new leads to try to kind of develop that relationship. And then I also think too, when you think about how you use email to connect with potential customers, think about the entire customer life cycle, right? And don't just stop at how do I use it to sell to them, right? Really, marketing goes way beyond even that sell point. It's not over that, right? So that example, what to expect during roof repair and replacement, you think about, Sunshine Roofing and what we're doing, they might have email stuff that they do to try to get somebody to the sale point. But once they're sold, right? And they're waiting for the the roofers to come out and install their new roof and take care of the project and stuff too. There's opportunity to continue to develop and work with them, and send them a link to that blog post of here, hey, by the way, here's what you should expect during roof repair and replacement. Are there stuff where people are in that process of being a new customer while you're working on their project that you can provide them to help them and again deepen that relationship, build more trust with them and stuff like that too. And then even afterwards, when the project is complete, how do you continue to nurture that, right? Because hopefully over that time you've built a really great fan, right? And if you've done it right, you've got somebody who's a raving fan of your work, but also the relationship that you've built with them and stuff too. You want to help them to spread the word, right? So follow up projects with with things like, hey, by the way, how do we do? Give us some feedback, right? And if you can use that feedback. We have some tools that we can use to help you do this really well. If you can drive that feedback to get them to leave a review on Google or on Yelp or on Facebook or Yellow Pages or wherever online stuff or Better Business Bureau. If you can drive those reviews to online review sites, then again, email marketing, right? You're building that into your process. Those reviews then will also then help feed your local SEO strategy, right? So all connected, right? So all of these things are really important. And again, you can get as simple or as complex as you want with an email marketing strategy. You can build pretty complex funnels with if this, then that, and stuff like that too. Or you can just kind of keep it straight and say, you know what, when I tag this client here, I have their email address as project complete. Start this email series. Maybe the email series, one email that says, how do we do? Could you give us some feedback? Maybe leave a review for us or something. So you can build some simple campaigns and stuff like that too as well. So, so with that, and then I don't want to leave out mobile, right? Mobile is huge. Most searches and stuff like that too are done on mobile. So, so even from a mobile perspective, several clients that we work with have websites that are really kind of old and getting impacted by mobile first type technology stuff. Google's really kind of going for. So that's something you build that kind of into how you manage your web design strategy and other factors like that. So anyway, so in the end, right? When you're thinking about what you're doing with your digital marketing strategy, where you want to go next year, part of it is take a look at where you're at. What kind of revenue are you driving overall for your organization? Gross annual income. How old are you? Are you a younger, new established? Need to maybe invest a little bit more to kind of compete with the bigger guys, or are you the more established that can not have to invest quite as much, right? How aggressive do you want to be, right? And what's that split? Like I said, most are doing 50% or maybe even a little bit more right now, shifting towards digital media and stuff for their marketing and stuff. So you've got the other side too that there's the offline stuff. Do you want your company to be in the Yellow Pages? How much does that ad look like, and things like that too. So a lot of those factors impact your budget. And there's no, like I said, there's no hard, fast guidelines on that. It's really going to be where you feel like you're going to have the greatest opportunity. The biggest thing I can always say with that, if you're not already doing it yet, is start tracking and measuring, right? So when customers call into you, how did you hear about it? Somebody says Yellow Pages, right? Then mark that one down for your offline marketing budget. We need to continue investing in Yellow Pages. If nobody's saying Yellow Pages, take it off. Maybe there's a little bit more. It's like, I don't have as much offline stuff. The online digital stuff is what's working more for me. So maybe out of my whole marketing budget, I want to go 70 or 75% or something like that towards digital, and then do a little bit of offline stuff. So anyway, that part's up to you. I think the important part is track it, measure it, and then how aggressive do you want to be, right? What kind of growth do you want to see over the next year? And let that kind of drive, when we hit that range of 6 to 12% for more established companies, for example, do you want to do 6% towards marketing, or do you want to go more aggressive and do 12? Because we really want to grow. We really want to invest in growth. And then, how much of that, do we want to drive towards digital? Because, where's the opportunity and where our customers actually coming from? So with that, hopefully this will help you kind of get a plan in place of where you want to try to be, the kinds of tools and things you have available to you that you can use that marketing spend budget and stuff like that for the next year, how you might be able to use it to actually impact your business and the types of things you might be able to do. Also, what I want to offer to anybody who's watching this right now too, it should be on our page, review page on the website, the playback page for this. There should be a button directly below too that says, hey, schedule a free consult with Dan. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, there should be a link to the page that has the button on it that says schedule a free consult with Dan. And I'm happy to set up some time with you, just no obligation, no sales pitch or anything like that, just to take this stuff. And if you have questions, need help processing, what this might look like for your organization stuff, I'm happy to have that conversation and give you some guidance. And if there's a way that we can help, happy to do that too. But really, I'd love to see you just take some of this information and help get a good plan in place, and then really look forward to seeing how that plan actually impacts your results over the next year. With that, let's leave you guys with a big fist bump, boom, and thanks for joining.